Finding a laptop in 2020 for 4K video editing and 1080p for under or around $1,000 can be a challenge. So in this video, I put together a list of my top picks, as well as explain why I picked these specific laptops to help you make the right purchasing decision for your video editing needs.
Let's get rocking.
So my initial thoughts on these laptops, jumping right into the content, is these are going to be great for 1080p video editing. They're going to be good for 4K. They're not going to be absolutely stellar in 4K. You might get a little lagginess in the timeline at full quality. Might have to bump it down to fourth or even half quality to get that really smooth playback. But we're going to talk through more of this as we're working through the video as a laptop by laptop basis. They're not going to be the most color accurate laptops. And they're usually going to be gaming laptops. And my question to you is, why do you need to stick around $1,000? Do you just personally think laptops should not be more expensive than that? Is it your budget? Comment below what keeps you on that budget, what you're going through. And just, I'd love to have a conversation with you about that, because you're going to gain certain aspects of better quality as you break through that $1,000 price point. But I completely understand when budgets come into play and you just simply can't. I totally respect that. I totally understand. And then stick around till the end of the video for spec explanations. And we're going to talk through why I picked these specific laptops and what makes a great video editing laptop. So you are more than welcome to ask me questions in the comment section below. But I please encourage you to watch this full video first, because I'll answer a lot of your questions as we're going through, I believe. But if I leave any of your questions out, please comment below and let me know what I can answer for you specifically. Okay, the first laptop up on the list is the Acer Swift 3. Now, this is a fantastic laptop for 1080p video editing. It comes with the AMD Ryzen 7 4700U. This is Ryzen's brand new 4000 series processor. It has 8 cores and 8 threads, a 2.0 gigahertz base clock with a 4.1 turbo clock, and the AMD Radeon 7 graphics. It has a estimated price, and why I say estimated is I cannot quote you the exact price because prices are always changing. So it has an estimated price of $673. It comes with 8 gigs of RAM, which to me is a little below my recommended starting point. But I recently reviewed the Lenovo Legion 5i, which had 8 gigs of RAM, and it performed very well. But then again, it had a higher performing processor and GPU. Okay, I digress. We're going to keep moving forward. But I encourage people to get 16 gigs of RAM, but 8 gigs will work for 1080p and maybe some light 4K video editing. This comes with 512 gigs of solid state storage, and it is a 14-inch 16:9 display. Now, the color gamut range on this laptop is something that is disappointing. It's 64% sRGB and 47% Adobe RGB. And you'll see that a lot of vendors discount a laptop because they put a crappy quality screen on the laptop. All right, let's keep moving forward. The Lenovo V14. This is another great laptop with the AMD Ryzen 4000 series processor. This comes with the Ryzen 5 4500U. So the Swift 3 is going to outperform this one a little bit as far as the processor is concerned. But as you see here, we have 12 gigs of RAM, which is going to give us a little bit better performance in multitasking. But we have a little bit slower processor. So we have 6 cores, 6 threads at 2.3 base clock and 4.0 turbo clock. And we have a 1 terabyte hard disk drive. So this means you're going to get a little bit slower read and write times, as well as saving and exporting. Those times are going to be a little bit slower with that hard disk drive. This is a 14-inch display, and here's what I'm talking about with that color gamut range. So this is the color accuracy. This has 50% sRGB and 40% Adobe RGB. And to me, that's just a little too low to have great color accuracy for a creator laptop. But like I always say concerning these low color accuracy laptops, if you get an external monitor for, say, $250 to $300 that has good color accuracy, then you've got a pretty solid setup. And you have more room for multitasking. So, you could have your video edit happening up here and your design files down here, and that would allow you to, have a faster workflow. So there's a lot of options going on here with these laptops. Okay, next is the Lenovo Ideapad Gaming 3. This is a great laptop. It has the latest i5-10300H processor from Intel. It comes in at around $800. And it's a 4-core, 8-thread processor with 2.5 gigahertz on the base clock and 4.5 gigahertz on the turbo clock. This is not going to be the best multitasking processor, but it is going to be a powerful processor for video editing. It comes with the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1650, 8 gigs of RAM, and 256 gigs of solid-state hard drive. It comes with a 15.6-inch Full HD display with a color gamut range of 56% sRGB, 36% Adobe RGB, so it is not very color accurate. And as you're going to see, a lot of these laptops, as we get started in this price point, and even moving up, are going to have that 8 gigs of RAM. And I would encourage you to upgrade that to 16 gigs. As soon as you can, because that's going to give you so much better performance, whether you're in Premiere Pro or Davinci Resolve, whatever it might be. And you're going to have a lot of people say 8 gigs is not enough. And I would be one of those people that would agree. And the reason being is because I am somebody who does a lot of multitasking while I'm editing. I'm not only working in Premiere Pro. If you're only working in Premiere Pro, you can get away with 8 gigs. I'll be totally honest. And that's something I didn't really say in the past because I didn't believe it until I ran some serious benchmarks. And I ran actual component head-to-heads. And I'll even link, actually, you know what? I'll link that video up in the description, not in the description above, in the YouTube cards above. And you can see that whether using 16, 8, or 32, you're going to get similar performance in the actual program. But where you're going to struggle is in that multitasking. And it will bottleneck a little bit. It will slow down, but you can get away with 8 gigs. I will say don't ever go with 4. Unless you already own the computer, then by all means, test it out. But 8 gigs is my definite base if you're purchasing a laptop, and then moving up to 16 is like that primo, like you're getting into the good stuff. All right, keep moving forward here. The MSI GF75. This is the first 17-inch laptop on this lineup. It comes in at about $849 estimated price. This has the i5-10300H, and you're going to have the 2.5 gigahertz on the base clock and the 4.5 on the turbo with the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1650 GPU. The 8 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of solid-state hard drive, and you're going to see a much better color gamut range here with this 17-inch screen. Now, we're going to be looking at a GF63, I think, in a few minutes here, and you'll notice that the screen quality is not the same, so don't think because, oh, I'm going to get the I was going to get the GF75, but I don't want a 17-inch laptop, so I'll just get to the GF63. It's a 15-inch laptop. You're not going to get the same color accuracy. Make sure you're looking at these laptops for the different color accuracies because these vendors love to put different screens on different laptops and get you all kerbobbled. If you're enjoying this video and getting some value, gently press down on that like button and let me know how you plan on using this laptop or either of these laptops by dropping a comment below. If you want more content like this in the future, then make sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any of my future uploads. Okay, let's get back into the video. All right, moving forward, the MSI GF63. And before I distract myself, look at this color gamut range. So you got to really keep an eye on this stuff. And a lot of people say, okay, let's say I want the MSI GF75 Leopard or whatever. That might be a model. Sorry, I digress. You can find out the color gamut range of a laptop simply by going to Google and typing in the model you're interested in plus color gamut range or color accuracy. And there's most likely a reviewer who has done a review of a laptop who will tell you, hey, I've tested it. This is the color gamut range. So if I personally don't know it, you can definitely Google it. Okay, so in this laptop, we have the i5-9300H, which is the older version of the i5 processor we've seen in the previous laptops. Still a phenomenal processor, getting you 2.4 gigahertz on the base clock and 4.1 on the turbo clock. So it comes in around $900 and has the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1050 Ti. Not one of the latest GPUs from NVIDIA, but still a solid GPU. This GPU was found in the Dell XPS 9570, I'm pretty sure. And this has 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of solid-state hard drive, and a 15.6-inch display. Concerning performance, I really like this laptop. It's very evenly stacked. Just the color gamut range to me is slightly disappointing. But like I've said, that's one thing we're going to experience with these more budget-friendly laptops in the below the $1,000 price point is you're going to have a lower color gamut range. Next up is the Acer Nitro 5. This laptop is really cool because it comes in a variety of spec choices. You can get it in either the AMD Ryzen 5 4600H or the i5-10300H. So really cool options here. You can get both. The AMD Ryzen is going to be slightly more affordable, and you're going to get more cores and threads. So it's going to be a better multitasking processor. where this one you're going to get slightly better turbo performance out of that Intel i5 processor. So if you're going to be strictly running Premiere Pro, then I would go for this one. If you're going to be a Davinci Resolve multitasking user, I would use this one. If you're going to be multitasking and editing, I would go more for this one, just because it's going to have faster export times, maybe a little bit better playback. But that Ryzen processor is really great for multitasking. So really, it's a toss-up. I don't want to make a direct recommendation because there's some Ryzen people, there's some Intel people. All right, next we're going to have 16 gigs of RAM in both of these laptops, 512 gigs of solid-state hard drive, and this is going to be, sorry, this is a typo. This is a 15.6-inch display. We're going to have a color gamut range of 57% sRGB and 36% Adobe RGB. So again, struggle bus on the color gamut range. All right, next up is the Asus VivoBook S512 S15. This laptop comes with the i5-10510U, which has a 1.8 base clock and a 4.9 turbo clock. The NVIDIA GeForce MX250 graphics card. That's more of like it's kind of a semi-integrated graphics. It's a lower performing chip than say like a GTX 1650 or a 1660 or even up to like say an RTX. But it's still going to be better than Intel's integrated like UHD 620 graphics. So this is definitely a step up compared to most integrated graphics, but it's not going to be as well performing as, say, a GTX 1650. We're going to have 256 gigs of solid state hard drive with 1 terabyte of hard disk drive, 16 gigs of memory, a 15.6-inch display, and 57% sRGB and 36% Adobe RGB. This is going to be a great laptop for, say, 1080p, and you may be able to get away with some 4K, but I would more push you towards 1080p with this laptop. Whereas with this laptop here, the Acer Nitro, you can get away with some 4K for sure, and the MSI GF63, some 4K for sure there as well. All right, next up is the Lenovo Ideapad L340. This comes again with the i5-9300H. Great laptop as well. We have the 2.4 with the 4.1 turbo, 1650, 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of solid state hard drive. I really like this laptop, how it is set up. That 16 gigs is great for that base level of RAM that you need. But again, we just have that color accuracy we're struggling with. Next up is the Lenovo Legion models. So these are a few different Lenovo Legions. We have the Lenovo Legion 5, the Lenovo Y540, and the Legion 5. So starting off here, we have a lower base model with the Ryzen 5 4600H, 6 cores and 12 threads, 3.0 base clock, 4.0 turbo, the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1650, 16 gigs of RAM, and 512 gigs of solid state hard drive. Whereas you go over to the Lenovo Legion Y540, you have the i7-9750H. It's a great processor. It's one of my top recommended processors for video editors, 4K video editors, which has a base clock of 2.6 and a turbo of 4.05. The NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1650, 16 gigs of GDDR4 RAM, and 512 gigs of solid state hard drive. And then after that, we have the higher performing Ryzen 7 4800H. That is a great processor. 8 cores, 16 threads, really good specs as far as base and turbo clock, and it has the GTX 1650 Ti. Personally, if I'm going to choose a laptop out of these three, I'm going for this one. But what I'm going to do is after I buy it, is I'm going to upgrade this to 16 gigs of RAM. The reason is you can't replace these parts. So you can't replace the processor or the GPU on any of these models, but you can upgrade the RAM. So I'm going to buy the one with the best specs that I can't replace, and then I'm going to upgrade the RAM. Personally, that's my choice. And again, like I've said, these are in the description below if you want to check pricing and all that of the exact pricing, the live pricing. The only thing that I recommend really keeping an eye on when you're purchasing one of these Lenovo Legions is look out for the display. Okay, depending if you purchase a 120 hertz display, or you purchase a 60 hertz display, or you purchase a 240 hertz display, the color gamut range is going to change. The laptop that I reviewed on my channel was the 120 hertz display with a color gamut range of 62% sRGB and 46% Adobe RGB. So please check before you buy the Lenovo website, or I mean, you're welcome to ask me, but you can quickly check on the Lenovo website because there are numerous options. All right, next up is the HP Pavilion gaming laptop. This is a great buy. It's a great purchase from HP. You can get the i5-10300H or the i7-10750H. For a little bit more money, you can go ahead and snag the i7, which I personally would. You're going to get more cores, more threads, and higher clock speeds. So I would definitely pick that up. However, you're going to get a little bit slower of a GPU here with this Ti Max Q. That's more of their mobile version. This is more of their standard expression. So that's the one downside, but really you can't beat that i7, that new i7 processor. It's a great setup. Each of these has 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of solid state hard drive, and this does have a 16.1-inch Full HD display. And the color gamut range on this laptop is 94% sRGB and 60% Adobe RGB, which is really great for a gaming laptop. Okay, now answering your questions. What makes a good video editing laptop? As in, what are the specs? Should I pick laptop X? We're going to talk through that. If you have laptops that you're thinking of and you're trying to decide upon, I'm going to help you through that. And what you gain by spending more money, and does it matter? And the reasons I personally would spend a little more money on a laptop. So hang on, don't go anywhere yet in this video. We're about to jump into these really important things that are going to answer a lot of your questions that I've seen in the last video I made about the best laptop under $1,000. These are questions that have come directly from that comment section. So that's why I really want you to stick around for this video. Okay, first, the CPU. Not all CPUs are created equally. What that means is you may have an i7 10710U that stacks up next to an i7 10750H. Which processor is more powerful? Well, the 10750H is going to be more powerful because it is a high-performance processor versus a mobile processor or a U processor, which is ultra-low power. And what that means is you are going to get better efficiency and better battery life out of that, low power. It means it consumes less power. It consumes power at 15 TDP rather than, say, a 45. That's the amount of wattage it consumes. So that consuming more power gives you more power into the CPU. Now, that's just a very, very basic, elementary attempt at explaining. I have full videos on my channel. I have full playlists that explain CPUs. If you go to my channel and you go to the playlist Tech Terms -CPU, you can watch through all the different intricacies of CPUs. But that's just really a very minute level of explaining that all CPUs are not created equally. You may have a Ryzen 3700U versus a Ryzen 4700U. That is a completely different processor. Don't just look at Ryzen 7 and think you're getting a great processor, because it could be a Ryzen 7 U processor, and even more than that, it could be a 3700U, which before this year, their processors weren't even performing at a level I would consider capable for video editing or even photo editing. So really be careful when you're purchasing a processor. If you're going for a U processor from Ryzen, get the 4000 series without a doubt for video editing. If you're going for a U processor from Intel, get the latest 10 series. So these are some quick recommendations for you. I'm going to be making more videos about that in the future. Okay, let's move forward. GPU, why it is important. It is important because it helps the CPU. It complements the video editing experience. So basically, the CPU is able to transmit information to the GPU, and the GPU then supports the workload. So it's going to do things like help with playback in the timeline. It's going to be pushing the footage up onto your screen to make that run smoothly. It's going to also be supporting the export out of Premiere Pro. These are things that are going to happen in the background. So having a powerful GPU will give you a more powerful, more fast export time. RAM. Why 16 gig minimum, but you can get away with 8 gigs? Well, that goes into, like I said earlier, the whole multitasking situation. You can get away with 8 gigs if you simply shut down everything else and dedicate your RAM usage to your video editing experience. Because if you notice, whenever you open up a laptop, you're going to be running a lot more power than you expected from your RAM. So when you open up your laptop, you're already going to be consuming anywhere from 2 to 4 gigs of RAM. So that means when you open up Premiere Pro on average will consume 3 to 6 gigs of RAM. So as you see there, you could already be running out of RAM with those two things happening alone. So that's why I say, yeah, 8 gigs is definitely suitable. I've reviewed the Lenovo Legion and got some great performance benchmarks. But if you're going to do any sort of multitasking, that RAM is completely going to be used up. It's going to slow down your video editing experience, and that's why I always say 16. All right, and lastly, the storage, SSD versus HDD. I always say HDD. So solid state drive versus hard disk drive. And so these two, the read and write speeds are going to be faster on a solid state drive because there's no moving parts, for a basic explanation. And the hard disk drive, the way it reads and writes is it has a disk and an eye that reads it, and that's how it reads the information, whereas the solid state drive just goes, grabs the information, pulls it. It doesn't have to have that spinning disk that reads. So very simple explanations for these, but I hope this gives you some clarity on why each of these aspects is important. All right, next up, what should I pick? Not all laptops are created equally, okay? And not all laptop performance. So right here we have an Asus TUF A15. Ben, should I buy this laptop? And honestly, these two laptops are priced in a no, they're not priced in a similar price point. What am I talking about? These are two different laptops. And you could say, hey, look, this is an AMD Ryzen 5 processor. And this is an AMD Ryzen 5 processor. This is about a $400 laptop. And this is about a $1,000 laptop. Why don't I just go with this one? It's got an AMD Ryzen 5, and it has 8 gigs of RAM, and it has a solid state hard drive, and it has some sort of graphics card in it. Okay, well, let's talk about this. This is Ryzen's latest 4600H. It's a great processor. This is AMD Ryzen's 5 last year's 3500 mobile processor. So what that means is we're getting a lot, basically that means we're getting a lot less performance. This has a lower TDP, 15 watts of power, and that's how much it's gonna be able to push for you to get good quality, fast performance. And this one's gonna be upwards of 45. I don't have the exact numbers on this one at this moment right in front of me. This is gonna be about a 45 watt processor. This is gonna have more cores and threads, so it's gonna be faster as well. And then you're gonna have a dedicated GeForce GTX 1650. Which is going to be even more helpful to push even more power and assist this CPU even more. Whereas this is an integrated GPU. So this is within the processor. So it's using the processor to run this. So it means you're going to have an even slower experience. And this 8 gigs of RAM, yeah, you're right. These are definitely evenly matched here. There's no getting around that. And then the solid state drive, they both have solid state drives. But make sure you're really looking through. If you see a listing that only says Ryzen 5, dig deep into the listing and find out what this number is. This number here is very important. Okay, and if you have questions, please ask me. But you can do a lot of comparisons on, say, something like User Benchmark. They don't have the most absolute 100% reliable benchmarking numbers, but you can do a comparison over there and at least get you in the ballpark of saying, holy Toledo, this processor is like 40% faster than this processor. And then you know, okay, for certain, yeah, that processor is more performing than this processor. So like I said, userbenchmark.com doesn't have the most hardcore perfect numbers, but it does give you a ballpark and help you choose the right machine. All right, next up on the list is going to be the benefits of buying a more expensive laptop. First and foremost is color accuracy, and I believe I proved that point to you in almost every single one of these laptops that's below $800. Color accuracy is something where the vendors skimp on in order to make a more affordable laptop, but then again, you lose out because you're a creator and you're interested in having color accuracy. The build materials. So we're going to have better quality build materials on these more expensive machines. They're going to be more thin and light. As a whole, of course, the Swift 3 is a thin and light laptop, but as a whole, they're going to be more thin and light, and they're going to have better battery life. So they're going to have better power consumption, and they're going to have larger batteries in some of these more high-end laptops. Okay, why would I personally spend more? Well, like I just said, color accuracy and battery life. And I know those things seem like little things, but honestly, you can get pretty solid performance out of these laptops we've been looking at. A lot of the laptops with the latest Ryzen 7 4800H or the Ryzen 5 4600H or the i7 10750H or the i5 10300H. These processors are great, and they will be really solid for 1080p and great for 4K as well. Not, blowing it out of the park because they're not often complemented with the most powerful GPUs or the most RAM. But then if you go ahead and upgrade that RAM, you're going to have a great setup. And so these are some things that you are going to be able to do. And so as far as purchasing a more expensive laptop, I want you to look at these two things because these are the reasons I would purchase a more expensive laptop: color accuracy and battery life. So those are my big arguments for you getting the upgrade. If you want more videos like this one, you can click or tap the screen over here, or if you want a recommended YouTube just for you video, click or tap the screen right here, and that'll be one of my videos that YouTube thinks you would like. Keep creating, keep designing, keep editing. I'm Benji Kaiser, and I'll see you here in the next video.